Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. Just into our newsroom within the last hour, we now know the official cause of death of the man who died in the Gray Fire. According to the Spokane County Medical Examiner, 86-year-old Carl Grube died from, quote, inhalational and thermal injuries. His body was found near Pine Street and West Fancher Road in Medical Lake. We also have new details tonight from two different lawsuits, both of them placing blame for the Gray Fire at Medical Lake on Inland Power and Light. That fire burned thousands of acres, more than 200 homes, and killed one person. Tonight we are hearing from both attorneys about their evidence and what the power company is saying tonight. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk joining us with more now. Kyle?
Well, yeah, and Inland Power is not saying much at this point. One of these attorneys says he has an eyewitness ready to testify about seeing sparks coming out of a yard light near the fire's origin. Officials have determined the Gray Fire was human-caused, but what exactly happened on the afternoon of August 18th is still under investigation. That isn't stopping two attorneys from filing complaints in Spokane Superior Court against Inland Power.
We've been investigating this very thoroughly for several weeks since the fire.
John Allison is representing 44 fire victims and says he has an eyewitness ready to testify.
Who observed sparks coming out of this yard light that was up above the area where we believe the fire started along South Gray Road. We know this was an Inland Power equipment, the wire, the pole, the light, the power pole and transformer it came from. And we hope to learn and retrace the history of this to find out why this malfunctioned so horribly.
KREM 2 reached out to Inland Power for comment. They told us, quote, "We learned of the lawsuit this afternoon. As you know, the cause is still under investigation, and we will not make any speculations while an active investigation is still underway."
That's very standard. At this point, they are unlikely to acknowledge that it's their equipment. Typically, they deny and they require us to prove it, which is fine.
Gerald Singleton filed a separate complaint against Inland Power. His team sent an arson investigator to look at the fire's origin a few weeks ago.
He interviewed everybody he could. He looked at the indicators that were on the ground, which indicated where the fire started, which direction it moved, and where it was in relation to the power lines. And all of those indicators were consistent with a power line caused fire.
It's hogwash.
So you don't think Inland Power had anything?
Absolutely not. I would bet my life on it. I got the pictures to prove it.
George Kirby is not an attorney or fire investigator, but he was working on a house near Gray Road and snapped these photos just after 12:45 that day. He's convinced the fire was sparked by farming equipment.
I watched him and his driver come out of the field to flames and chasing him. There wasn't no way it started on that hill or over on the other side of that hill. It started in that wheat field.
It could be several months before fire investigators determine what really happened.
And the real reason why we have filed the case now is to give the victims of the fire a seat at the table, to have the opportunity to inspect the evidence, to take testimony from witnesses through their counsel, to get to the bottom of why this happened, get to the truth. Not only to give the victims a chance for being made whole for all they've lost, but also to protect the community, to find out how and why this happened and how we can prevent it from happening again.
And that attorney is also representing victims of the Malden fire in their lawsuit against Avista. That trial is set for May. Mark?
Kyle, thank you very much. While lawsuits have been filed for people impacted by the Gray Fire, communities north of Spokane are still reeling from the Oregon Road Fire, discovering new costs and new headaches when it comes to cleanup. Now, asbestos testing, a required step for homeowners who lost everything, is setting back people thousands in insurance money.
You tested 40 down there in only one spot, so couldn't that just have been an object? Why is my whole place contaminated now? Those are questions that aren't getting answered, but are very expensive because they say so. You know, one and you're done.
While they wait to rebuild, friends' homes and RVs are what many people are now calling home. And a heads up for drivers making their way through Medical Lake on I-90 tomorrow. WashDOT crews will start removing trees on both sides of the freeway that were impacted by the Gray Fire. They'll be working from 7 in the morning until 5:30 at night for the rest of the week. New tonight, the Spokane Valley City Council opted not to vote on a resolution that voters could see on their November ballot. Measure 1 is a 0.2% increase in sales tax that would be used in part to build a new Spokane County jail. Council was asked to consider a resolution either in support or in opposition to Measure 1, but again, they opted not to pass any resolution at all tonight. Also new tonight, the Coeur d'Alene Police Department investigating a crime spree that started this weekend and lasted until early this morning. Police say they responded to several car and home burglaries, multiple stolen cars, and a car fire. They were told the suspect behind each incident, a 14-year-old boy. That boy was taken into custody where he admitted to the crimes, they say. He was booked into the Kootenai County Juvenile Detention Center on several charges, including grand theft and arson. Happening tomorrow, the West Bonner County School District holding its first meeting since the superintendent announced his resignation. Brandon Durst announced yesterday he is stepping down after 3 controversial months on the job. This comes after a weeks-long back and forth regarding Durst's lack of qualifications for the job. We will be covering tomorrow's meeting right here on KREM 2 News at 10 and 11 o'clock. All right, let's talk weather. A few days into fall, and it is certainly starting to feel like it. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo to find out how much more rain is headed our way. Jeremy?
Oh, a few more days of it. And believe it or not, that big drop in temps we felt during the day today compared to yesterday continues tonight. An almost 20-degree drop in our high temperature. And get this, right now, we sit about 10 to 12 degrees colder than where we were this time yesterday. That's all as we catch a break in the action. Look at that new storm forming just off the coast. That's going to play a big role in what we wind up seeing tomorrow. There's our break in the action right now. Look at that. Clearing skies overhead means temperatures are going to drop. Tomorrow morning, we'll see all that moisture work its way across the state. I think kind of in the 7 and 8 o'clock hour, we'll see a little activity here in eastern Washington and North Idaho. Looks like early afternoon we'll catch a break, and then waves of scattered showers take us through the afternoon. That's just a very similar pattern to what we saw today. Eventually it clears out, and then more rain is back in the forecast as we get into the day on Thursday. Maybe not as widespread, but those temperatures going to stay cooler. We're in the upper 50s the next few days.
All right, sounds good, Jeremy. We'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. Now to our night beat with a quick look at today's top stories. A lawsuit against the Washington Department of Corrections claims that unreliable drug tests were used to impose harsh punishments on inmates. 4 current and past inmates at the Airway Heights Correction Center say a preliminary drug test on their items came back positive. But once a lab test showed there was not, in fact, drugs on their items, one inmate's attorney tells us the DOC did nothing to right their wrongs.
Most of the punishments imposed can't be undone. I mean, you're in solitary confinement for a few months. That's not something that you can get back, right? You can't undo that. If you've lost visitation options with your loved ones, that can't be undone.
Crutzen, that attorney there, tells us the goal of the lawsuit is to stop the department from regularly using these drug tests as a mean of imposing punishment. DOC, by the way, opted not to comment. Meantime, 2 people in eastern Washington have tested positive for the West Nile virus this past week. According to the Department of Health, the residents who were infected with the mosquito-borne virus were from Walla Walla and Franklin counties, and 2 horses in Grant and Benton counties also tested positive for the virus. There is no vaccine available for humans. Well, if you are a fan of the Dick's Burgers right here in Spokane, you might be happy to find out the Real Deal is opening another location in western Washington. It'll be the 10th Dick's Drive-In location, this time in South Everett on Highway 99 near Payne Field. The original Dick's Drive-In opened back in 1954 in Seattle's Wallingford neighborhood. They are celebrating 70 years later this year. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just head to our website. That's KREM.com. Just within the last few hours, a judge ruled that former President Donald Trump, his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, and the entire Trump organization committed extensive and persistent fraud over a decade. The ruling states that the former president inflated the value of his assets by billions of dollars and lied about his net worth on financial documents to banks and insurance companies. This now leads to the cancellation of the company's New York business license, which means the Trump organization could lose control over properties like Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan. This is a developing story. We will continue to bring you updates as we learn them. Meantime, members of Congress scrambling tonight to avoid a government shutdown. In a new video, President Joe Biden warned of the potential consequences, including service members who could go without pay. The uphill battle now appears to be with hard right Republicans seeking to slash spending at all costs.